Hi everyone, it's John with Prudential Lighting. Today we're going to talk about a subject that gets into the nuts and bolts of how the system works once you've ordered something, and that specifically is called our submittal drawings. And so when you order a product that's individual and needs to be configured, we're going to give you drawings. And in order to make this go faster and smoother, we ask for a few things up front. And would ask, if you don't have all this information yet, then to wait, because revision after revision after revision is what takes time and drives everybody crazy, including you and us, right? So please, before we actually initiate the drawing process, make sure that we have all the fixture types, the row links, especially the row links. Ceiling types are one of those elusive things that seem to be very fluid and change, but that adds time because it adds revisions, and we're always going to have to do a revision if it's a ceiling type, because different types of ceilings require different lengths of fixtures. And then things like sensors and emergency batteries and power and all of those kinds of devices that we add in, right? All of that stuff, if you can tell us up front, it's going to make this whole system go a lot faster. So, and the other thing I wanted you to know beforehand is the way that you release and order the project will determine how we do our drawings and how we ship it to you. So if you have, for example, a good sizable job, it's in a building that has multiple floors, and you release the whole job, you order the whole job from us at one time, and then you decide you want to release it on a floor-by-floor basis. We're going to tell you that we have to redo our drawings now based on how you want to release that. So in this case, floor by floor. So if you know that up front, please tell us that and order it that way, so that our drawings are smooth and we save ourselves, again, revisions. And oh, by the way, if there are multiple types, we're going to try and do our drawings as cleanly, as simply as possible. So we're going to synthesize down to single types. And so if you have multiple types on a job of our products that need to be configured, we will give you multiple sets, and that may even be the same type of fixture, but let's say one's in the middle of the room and we have something at the perimeter. Those will be different sets as well, and so you're going to look for different sets. And then one option that I don't know that you know that we have, but we do, and we want to make sure you're aware of it, and that is when you get into quite a large job, and it's a campus even. We've got multiple buildings. In those buildings we've got multiple floors and multiple rooms. And you would like us to not only do the drawings in a way that matches, as we just talked about, but you'd also like us to ship to you to match that layout. So we're going to ship by building and by floor and by room in many cases, if that's what you want. So we charge a nominal fee to do that. This is not our normal way of doing it, and that's why I say if you have this situation, you do have to ask for it. But in this case, we have the same job. Different colored stickers are telling me it's in building one. In this case, it's building 2. Sometimes we'll have by floor and by room, and so we may even have 3 color-coded stickers that allow you not to take in the job, tear it down, rebuild it for delivery to the job, which often is a distributor's job. But in this case, it's coming right out of the factory, just how you'd like that. And we do that, we offer it. So again, if you want it, raise your hand, and we can accommodate that. So let's get into the real meat of this, which is how do you read our drawings, right? All the manufacturers that do this kind of thing create their own, and how do you read ours? And so if you look at ours, we have 4 or 5 major areas of interest, and we're going to dive into each one of those separately, just so we understand what's going on. Okay, so when you look at our drawings, they will come in one of 2 ways, either all on one single sheet, or with multiple sheets in which we have spread out what we're going to call our layouts from the rest of the information. In this case, I'm showing you the latter, right, a bigger job typically. And while we don't send them out color-coded with big headers on each section, we're going to talk about these sections kind of in order here. So the first thing we want to talk about is our title block. And in this area, we're going to find the actual catalog number that should be what you ordered. That should match what your order says. If it doesn't, please raise your hand right away. Secondly, we're going to talk about what types these are based on your, again, order to us, and that should match the architect's drawings. We'll talk about our scale, and then if this is the first set, so we have no revisions, but if we had revisions, this would grow and we'd see what the revision was, when it was done, and what was included in that revision. Okay, section 2, what jumps out to you obviously is the big drawings, right? The cross sections of the fixtures. And these are intended to accurately tell you what that fixture is going to be dimensionally outside, obviously. Also the interior components, what those are going to look like. And then how it's going to attach to a ceiling and mount to structure typically. And so in this case we have two different ceilings. We have a T-bar ceiling, and we're showing that attachment here, and then on the other is an overlapping flange on a gyp ceiling. And then lots of dimensions. So we're going to dimension as much as possible here, so you can you're sure of everything. But one of the things we do want you to watch out for are areas where we have this little cautions symbol, which says, hey, pay attention to that. In this case, we're talking about plenum heights, and we're saying, hey, you need a minimum of, in this case, 10 and 11/32. And make sure you have that. If you don't, that's going to be a problem. Let's talk about it. And so you'll see some of those scattered throughout this drawing. And then also we are showing here a remote sensor. It's not going to be integral in the fixture. We're going to remote that off. We tell you that it's remote mounted. We're going to obviously install by others here. And then we tell you here, as we point to this cable, what kind of cable it is, but also it happens to be 7 feet long, and then we reference you off to the notes, right? And so if you needed something other than or longer than 7 feet, again, you're going to circle that, say I need something else. Our mounting options are shown here in plethora sometimes. So in this case, we have, again, a T-bar situation, and we have T-bar clips that have guy wire up to the deck. But we also have down rods that you can place either in the middle or on the sides. And so this is a little bit of a fielder's choice, whatever works best in the application, and you get to choose. We'll send you all of this equipment. Unless we call out by others, we're sending it to you. And in this case here, we're in a perimeter system, and we have overhead mounting brackets, and again, a cautionary note that sends you to see note number 2 in this case. And then obviously the support wires, the guy wire, we're not going to send you, right? All right, so and then we move into just quickly some things to watch out for, because these are really, really common mistakes that people make, and that is mixing up ceiling openings with fixture overall lengths. And obviously you can understand that would be a problem. So we are always going to label them, you know, in this case, ceiling opening, 5 1/8 inch. The aperture on the interior side is 4 3/32. Not that that matters much for installation, but and the outside flange here, because we've got a gyp ceiling and we have an overlapping flange, is on the outside 5 7/16. So these things are just things to be careful of, to watch, not only in the cross-sectional view, but especially in the along view. And in this case, same situation, except we're in the along view. It's a recessed product, and the ceiling opening here is obviously called out 8 3/4 inch, and then the fixture itself is 8 foot on the money. And so just don't mix those up. And a couple of other common things that sometimes people do is forget when to put on what. And so some things need to go before, especially if it's drywall, right? And so if we are sending you out an optional cover plate to cover up a junction box because the fixture isn't big enough, clearly that needs to go on before the drywall. So watch for those kinds of notes. And then things like mounting fixtures directly to the T that don't leave for electrical connections. That's obviously a no-no, and that happens more frequently than you might think. Right? So we'll watch for some of those kind of things. Again, looking for the by others, because those are not coming from us. You're going to have to supply them yourself. But normally they're things like, you know, 1/4 down rod from the deck, or guy wire, or, you know, some of those very, very common mechanical elements. And then we get into this third section, which we call our general specifications. And this is really about the fixture itself, not so much the installation. And so if you had an inspector who wanted to see something about the fixture, you might direct him here. If you were interested or someone else was interested in what the material was or what the UL or ETL labeling was or any of the construction attributes of the fixture, you'd come here. But here's where we get into the meat of what's going on. And this is where we have the layouts and the bills of material. And so these two play together, obviously. The symbols on top of these fixtures, in this case the C, the E, the E, the D, those are referenced back to the bill of material, and these are going to be the fixtures themselves. If you look a little closer to the bill of material, how this works is up until the first comma, we talk about the fixture itself, both by description and nomenclature, and also whether it's an end fixture or a start fixture, or in this case an intermediate fixture. And so we'll also be careful with that. After that first comma, then we start talking about the wiring. And we do these drawings both for you as the contractor and for our factory. We use these bills of material to know how we're going to wire those fixtures. So it is important that you look at these, make sure that you're happy with how we're going to wire them, and then you can reference them back, obviously, if there's an issue. The one thing I do want to point out for is sometimes we send you product that is intended to be field trimmed or field cut. Typically that's going to be aluminum rails and or acrylic lenses. Those are the two things we typically are going to field cut. And so watch for that. We will call those out. Just make sure that you realize there is some labor intended on your side to make that fit perfectly. So the key here, as we talked about, the symbols that are within the box on top of the fixture, that's the fixture itself. That's the fixture type. We talked a little bit about the ceiling symbols or the JIP symbols. This symbol right here, these dashed lines, talk about where the ceiling begins relative to the outside of the fixture. And so over here I can tell that it's a recessed fixture because I have ceiling material, be that T-bar or JIP, and it's intended to reside slightly away from the housing. And then obviously the hash marks are kind of universal for emergency, and that could be circuit, that could be battery, that could be relay, that could be a number of things. But that section of this particular fixture is going to be the emergency section. And so if you watch for that, you'll keep it straight. As we talk now about the dimensions themselves, there are some interesting things that happen, and that is sometimes we give you a range. And in this case, we have what we call our WTW, which is our wall-to-wall fixtures, obviously usually in the perimeter system. And we're going to give you a ceiling opening here that has a call out at 14.6, but an actual possible of 13.8 3/8 to 14.11 7/8, or a range of about 14 inches. And that range means that fixture is going to be field trimmed because it's going to come at the largest length, the maximum. That's what you're going to get. And so the intention is that you're going to start from the left and go to the right, which is how our drawings are always intended. And you're going to run into the last fixture, which is, it depends on how the wall was constructed, because we're not measuring walls before we get there. And so this has the ability to field trim, and so you are going to have to do that. That's going to be the ceiling opening, but the fixture as well has this range, and so that's your clue. This is a field trim situation. And if you look at the layout and back to the bill of material, you can also find that out. If we look at starting again from left going to right, which is always how we intend you to construct this, letter C tells me it's an 8-foot fixture. In this case, it's an intermediate. There must be fixtures to the left of that that got cut off here. B is a 4-foot intermediate fixture. And then type A over here going into this corner is a 2-foot intermediate filler kit. And that word filler kit, or that name filler kit, is going to be your clue that obviously we're going to have to do some field trimming and cutting to size. Now, you also saw some other numbers here, and they're highlighted here for you, that are not on the fixtures, but they're off to the side. And so, as you read further down the bill of materials, you get away from the letters and into the numbers. And the 3s here start off with our lenses. And so a 3-9 is a 9-foot lens. It's 108 inches. It is intended for you to field trim the last one, typically. So you're going to start at the left, move to the right, put in all of the 8s, get to the end, measure what's left, cut the last one. Right? Not all of them need to be cut. The 4s, in this case, we have a 4-4 and a 4-8, and these are the side trims. This particular fixture has the trims coming in a separate box, and you would put them up after the fixture and after the ceiling. And in this case, again, we have some field trim issues, and if you'll notice, only the 8-foot has the field trim notice here, because we're starting with the 4-foot and then we're doing the 8s across the top, and whatever is left over is what you're going to field trim. So that's how you read those call-outs relative to the bill of material. Okay, so this is the same thing, except it's not a recessed product. This one happens to be a pendant hung, cable hung, and you can tell that because I'm showing no ceiling next to them. I'm also showing where I've got a feed location very specifically because it's cable hung. And then in this case we have some sensors and some other things. But the fixtures are all called out on the bill of material just like they were anywhere else. And it plays the same way. This just happens to be pendant hung. So we often get into patterns, what I will call patterns or layouts or things that use corners. And so we will do them both in a in-plane situation where they're all in the ceiling. We're wrapping around maybe the corners of the walls and the ceilings. In this case, it's out of plane, so we're going up the wall and across the ceiling. And so in that case, we're going to show you an isometric so that you know what's going on. Again, we're going to use the same graphic or symbol for our wall. And instead of putting the squares right on the fixture because it might not be legible, we'll put them off and we'll aim at them, we'll arrow to them. But the rest of the call-outs in terms of the numbers are about trims and lenses, just like they always are. In this case, we do not have variable distances. These are actuals, and so this fixture was specific to a size. There will be no field trim options here or need for the fixture itself anyway. And that will be how that works. So when you're looking at your layouts, there's a few things that obviously you'll need to verify for us, right? So the locations, the EMCs, the daylight locations, the night lights, the batteries, where you want your drops, if we're talking about multiple drops for emergency and it's pendant hung, the wiring, how you want your wiring to play. All of those things we really need you to look at and verify, because when it gets to the job, it's going to be exactly that, and we want to make sure that you're happy with that, obviously. So, and then we get into these notes, and this will answer all of these kinds of questions. So, if you watch the notes, we'll talk about, in this case, what happens before drywall. So, in this case, secure fixture to the structure prior to drywall installation. Field cutting, lenses, trims required. We'll always point those out for you as well. The emergency circuiting, whether it's a battery or a circuit or a relay, all of those will be called out. In this case, we've got an emergency circuit option, and bypass relay is not included, going to be provided by others. And anyway, so watch those notes carefully, please. And then order of installation. Here's where, as I talked about before, all mounting needs to start from left and go to the right as you're looking at the drawings that we're sending you. That's how we intend you to start, and even in a pattern, you're going to pick from the left and move around to the right. And then again, verify cable lengths of things like signal cable and cords and things like that, please. So, that is how you read our drawings. They're fairly straightforward. They've got a lot of information. They're packed with information, in fact, I realize. But all of it is good. All of it's going to help keep you moving the fastest and make this install the cleanest possible. However, we'd love to hear your feedback. If you've got some better ideas, other ideas, absolutely please send them to us. So contact your local agent for help in that, or you can contact us direct at PRUlight.com.